here's a breathing exercise. It's great. Close your eyes and breathe in. Breathe into trust. So when you take a breath in, you're breathing in trust, and exhale fear. And close your eyes and imagine you're breathing in trust and you're breathing out fear, because hope, distilled to its primitive essence, is trust in your own soul, trust in the universe. It's trust. So if you breathe in trust and you breathe out fear, it makes room for hope to wake up again. I'm Jodee Blanco, and I live hope.
Welcome to I Share Hope, the podcast where world leaders share their real stories of hope and how you can use actionable hope to start changing your life today. And now, here's your host, Chris Williams.
Hello, this is Jody.
Jody, Chris Williams, how are you?
Hi, Chris. It's good to talk with you. How are you?
I'm doing great. It's great to talk to you, too. Thanks so much for your time.
So now, talk to me a little bit about, I love the idea of what you're doing, and I'm so delighted that you called me. Where did all this come from? What do you do? Is this your full-time gig, or is this just something that you're passionate about and you have a totally separate career?
Yeah, so professionally, I'm a consulting CEO. I work with distressed companies and about 4 to 5 clients a year. That's my day job, quote unquote, and love it. But this has came out of me working with counselors and just working through my own life and past, and I just could not shake despair and depression and suicidal tendencies. And so they just kind of kept pushing me towards, hey, go find more people who you think have hope if you don't believe it's real, and see what they say. Just hear from them. Talk to them. So I started doing that, and this turned into this. It wasn't meant to be a podcast originally. My friends started saying, wow, that's a cool story. I didn't know about that guy. You should record those next time. And it just evolved into what I was kind of doing on my own to become a person of hope. And now I get to share it even more. So it's kind of getting to be really fun.
Have you thought about doing a book with all these stories?
I have. I'm not a writer, and that's kind of why I went the audio direction initially. I was starting to write down, here's what I talked to so-and-so, and they said this, and here's what I'm thinking, trying to blog. And so I'm not much of a writer, so I started doing everything audio, and I think that may help me convert this into a book maybe someday. I don't know. I just I have a long way to go on hope and writing.
Well, now, so how did you come across me?
So what I do is I have myself and Sai and Zarina, and then the audio editors. They're all on our site as well, because they do a ton of work to help me get this done. So Sai is really good at pointing me in the right direction. So I can tell her, hey, I want to talk to people in this genre and this genre. Or if I find somebody in a news clipping or something online or a Twitter feed, then I'll be able to jump in there, and she kind of helps me track people down, and then I just send you an email to see if you'd be willing, and you were. I'm amazed. I really am. You've done so much to bring hope to a bunch of kids and now a bunch of adults, and I got 5 kids, and so
oh wow,
we started school a month ago at our school here locally. In the first week of school, they said, every day when they came home, gym class, every day in gym class, we're not doing anything fun. We're just sitting around talking about bullying policies and what is bullying, and they see it as a little bit boring, and yet all of them have experienced some sort of bullying. Just it's kids, not nothing major yet, but they really get it. Hey, this is important. We want to make sure our friends and our not friends at school are welcome to be themselves, and it's okay. And that's really, really important. I see it every day. Because I got a 3rd grader up to a 9th grader. So, 3 of my kids are middle school and high school, and they're just right there in the middle of all that,
Oh, yeah. So let's start. What would you like to know?
Yeah, well, let me do this and make sure I get this right. So the 5 questions. I follow the interview structure pretty straightforward, and I want to make sure.
Well, I'm going to be honest, I don't study questions beforehand. I would never do that.
Good.
Just like I don't prepare for talks ever.
Yeah.
I get up there and I extemporize.
I love it.
I just it's just so I haven't seen the questions and I didn't do that on purpose. So
Well, straight from the heart is
know.
even better. That's good.
Yeah.
Okay. Well then, so it's Jodee Blanco, is that right? I'm going to make sure I say it right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, let's just jump in here, Jody. So today we got Jodee Blanco with us, and she is the expert and the main activist, and you're going to see her name all over the place. If you haven't already, you'll start recognizing now that you know who she is. She is really focused in on the effects of bullying in our schools, and we see so many news articles and things on TV, CNN, all this stuff that's just rough going on in our schools. And it was going on when we were kids, and it's going on now. It's just, you know, as kids we're mean sometimes, and Jody has been there, been on the wrong side of the bullying relationship and been hurt a lot. But she's come through that and become just this awesome advocate for how to end the bullying crisis that we have. So Jody, first of all, thanks for your time. We'll get to the questions in a second, but where are you today? What are you doing? Are you out walking the dog?
Well, normally, it's funny you should mention my dog because he's 15 years, he's almost 15, and I'm trying to help him onto the couch as we're speaking here because he needs a little butt boost to get on the couch, Mr. Shadow. Well, you know, I'm a survivor of school bullying turned activist and author. I was tormented by peers, you know, from 5th grade through high school. So I travel around the world speaking at schools, doing a day-long program for students, teachers, and parents called It's Not Just Joking Around. So I'm usually on the road. But today I have a home office. I've lived kind of all over the world too, but right now I'm back home in the south suburbs of Chicago, and I have a lovely little cottage sort of in a woody suburb, and I'm sitting here with my 14-and-a-half-year-old cur rescue dog, Mr. Shadow.
Aww.
And he is competing for my attention, but I'm giving him a look that says, I love you more than life, but sometimes we have to share mommy. So he's slowly accepting that as we're speaking.
His name is Mr. Shadow?
Mr. Shadow. Yes,
I love
Mr.
that.
Shadow. Mr. Shadow's very famous. He's very famous. He's been featured in every book I write. He's been featured on TV interviews because I talk about him. He's very famous.
That's so fun. So how did Mr. Shadow get his name?
Well, he's a rescue. So when I rescued him, his name was Shadow.
Okay.
But he was like an old man even at 3. So that's where the Mr. came from. And I'm a big advocate. I'm an animal rights activist as well. Hold on, I'm boosting him. Come here, Mr. Shadow. There you go. I'm an animal rights activist too. I really I fight for the rights of the innocent. Mm-hmm. Whether it's a child in school who sits alone at lunch and is excluded for being different, an animal that has no hope or no home, or an elderly person that's disenfranchised. If someone feels the way I did growing up, for whatever reason, whether they have fur or not, that I'm never going to belong, I'm never going to fit in, I'm never going to have anywhere that's home. For the emotionally homeless, I'm their advocate and their voice and their champion.
That's awesome. As a dad of 5, thank you. Because my kids sometimes are the ones being a little mean and sometimes the ones getting a little hurt, and either way is not the right way. So tell me this, Jody. We have 5 questions that we ask everybody that we're interviewing. We're interviewing 1,000 leaders of hope, literally around the world, a kind of a cross-section of global population. So thank you for being willing to give us your time and be one of our 1,000 leaders of hope that are answering these questions. The question number 1 is pretty straightforward. What's your favorite definition about hope, or quote, or your belief about hope?
Hope is, for many, hope is a scary thing. And for years, I hated hope. I literally did. For years, I was in a dark place. And I didn't want to have hope because every time I found the strength and the courage and the energy to muster it, something would happen where I would get devastated. And so I, over time, adopted the attitude of, I don't want to have hope, because if you don't have hope, then you can't get devastated. You can't get disappointed. But if you have hope, then, and you keep getting disappointed, it's easier not to have it.
Mm-hmm.
And I lived like that for probably 3/4 of my life, more. Even when I was being successful professionally, personally, I was getting hurt. And so I came to resent hope because I saw it as false light.
Wow.
And then one day I realized that it wasn't false light at all. It was just true light that you have to turn on yourself and keep on despite external circumstances.
Mm-hmm.
Hope to me isn't something you cling to. Like the expression, oh, he's clinging to hope. Hope isn't something you cling to. Hope is something that lives inside you despite external influences. That is true hope. If things that happen outside of you influence the hope inside of you, then it's not real hope. Hope is something that's like this flickering candle flame inside your solar plexus that's protected from the wind, protected from the storm. It exists because you exist.
Wow. That's a rich definition. That really is. Hope is not really coming and going based on your circumstances. It has to be way deeper than that.
Right.
Wow. So
it has to exist because you exist.
That makes sense. That's hard to grasp as somebody who's lost hope too many times. Lost hope is, I guess you could grade that on some scale of how hopeless is one person versus another. But you're right. I haven't lost hope all the way. There's been something deeper in there that hangs on even when everything else looks really bad. So with that definition, question number 2 is, who has shared that kind of hope with you? Who's helped instill that in your heart?
There are a lot of influences. And I've been through the mill. When I was a kid, from 5th grade on, I really was different. Like so many other kids who struggle to fit in today, I was just different. I was a very old soul, like an ancient child, and I wanted to fit in, but I couldn't. And the harder I tried, the worse I got rejected. I remember sitting in the girls' bathroom at lunch on the sink in high school, wolfing down protein bars for lunch because no one would let me sit with them. Literally.
Wow.
I remember being invited to parties. I remember once, my mom was so excited. I finally got invited to a party, and she took me to get my makeup done and my hair done. And then when I got to the address of the party, it was an empty parking lot in a forest preserve.
Oh, my goodness.
So, I've been physically beaten. I've been called every name in the book. I was born with a severe congenital birth defect that didn't articulate itself until I was in maybe 8th grade. And then once it did, I was also brutalized for that. So I went through a lot as a kid. And it's interesting, Chris, people often ask me, because I share my story in schools all around the world. I've done it's not just joking around. It's almost like a performance when I get up there and relive my past in front of kids, teachers, and parents. I've done it for over 500,000 people live in schools worldwide.
Wow.
And the one question that always comes up is, what was the hardest thing about being bullied? And my answer always makes people kind of drop their jaws. It wasn't the friendship and love and acceptance I was being denied that hurt. It was all the love and friendship I had to give that nobody wanted, and it kept getting thrown back in my face. After a while, all that love and acceptance I wanted to give backed up into my system, turned into a toxin, and poisoned my spirit. And that's when my hope literally went dormant. It didn't go dead, it went dormant. And I think that's an important thing for people who are listening to know. There's a difference between dead hope and dormant hope. I don't think hope dies as long as you have breath. It isn't that you should be clinging to hope. Hope itself will cling to you, but it can go dormant. So in those moments when you're in what I call, a friend of mine who's an actor described that dark place. Some people call it the dark night of the soul. When you go through something so deep, it's like you're in a tunnel and you're screaming and yet no one can hear you. And you're clawing your way to get out and you can't. And yet you could be functioning. You could be going to work, getting things done, doing your job, going to the grocery store, even going out and socializing. You're functioning. But the minute everybody's gone, the minute that you're alone, it's like you're in this deep, dark, terrifying hole and you can't get out. That's the dark night of the soul. Some people call it the jaws of the black dog. Everyone, if they have a life well led, will go through a dark night of the soul. And that's when hope is given the chance to dance. True hope, real hope, the tough, gritty, meaningful, chewy stuff of hope doesn't come in the moments of transitory despair. It comes in the moment at that dark night of the soul. Because in that moment, it's like going through a birth canal again. If you think about when you were born, we can't remember when we're born, and it's too darn bad. Imagine you're in this warm, safe place, and then you have this violent pathway into life. The dark night of the soul is the same thing. It's like a rebirth. It's like a whole revamping of your hope, your faith, your spirit, and your purpose. So for anyone listening, if you're in that dark night of the soul, and ironically, I was there as a teenager for a while, but I also went there again after my divorce recently, and I was there for 3 years, and this was recent. I've just been okay maybe the last year and a half. And I was out there touring, motivating kids to hang in there, compassionatizing bullies, preventing suicides, preventing murder-suicide, doing interventions, doing everything I do. I mean, I save lives for a living. And I was out there doing it, but I was a wounded healer. Inside, I was a mess. I wanted to die, that's the truth. And yet I was convincing kids not to kill themselves during the day, and I'd get home and wanted to die myself. And that's when I found hope. I went through this dark, dark place. And here's the advice I can give people. Number one, if you're in that dark place and you feel like you lost hope, you don't lose hope. It's like losing your, like losing an appendage or losing your existence. You don't lose it, but it can go dormant. That's okay. If you don't feel hope, it's okay. It's just sleeping. It's hibernating within you. Let it hibernate. It needs to hibernate. If you don't feel hope, it's because right now you need to feel something else. Ride it. Pretend like you're at an amusement park and you're on one of those scary water slides. It's like a dark tunnel. And you know you have to ride it. And it's uncomfortable, but you're going to get out of there. Just ride it. If you feel like curling up in a ball and screaming, do it. If you feel like sobbing, do it. Get it out. Let it out. The only way sometimes to get to the other end of a dark place is to go through it. The only way to get out of a dark tunnel is to go through it. You can't go over it or sidestep it, go through it. Hope is something that's hibernating within you. Once you let your body release this pain, release this angst, release this fear. Most hopelessness is fear rearticulated anyways. once you let your body release it and your soul release it, you will come out of that dark tunnel, and your hope will be different. It'll be deeper, it'll be brighter, it'll have more colors, and it grows with you. So
that's good. I'm taking notes like crazy. Sorry, I'm so quiet over here. I've never ever thought or even heard of that kind of concept where, I mean, I'm spending so much time and energy trying to gain hope, grow hope, manufacture hope, strengthen it, glean hope from other people so I can build my own. I never thought about the fact that maybe I should let it rest and give hope a day off, so to speak, because it could be just plain worn out, and let other feelings be there, and that be okay. I mean,
it's not just okay, it's necessary.
But what if those feelings what if the feelings are dark and scary feelings? You're like, boy, I got to have something to counteract the feelings of depression or suicidal tendencies. Like you're talking about that same stuff.
Well, here's the thing. We avoid fear and we avoid darkness. So we try to force hope to push it away, or we'll seek addictive. It's something that we're addicted to push it away, or we'll seek relationships to push it away. We're always trying to subjugate and skirt and escape darkness.
Yeah. Anything painful we want to get away from. I'm with you there.
Anything painful we want to get away from. The pain is the great emancipator. Pain is the great emancipator. You can't, of every single person has a dark night of the soul, a moment in their lives. And it's not, for some that moment could be a month. For me, it was, in many ways, 11 years old to 50.
Wow.
And it was always there, but I lived around it. Mm-hmm. I achieved success, and I've written New York Times best-selling book. I mean, I've had a monster career.
Yeah.
So I achieved success around it, and I used my career to avoid that dark place. And then finally, when I hit my late 40s, it found me. I couldn't run away from it anymore. Mm. And it was the best thing that ever happened to me. Mm. And the other thing is that when you feel you're most hopeless, that means that your spirit and your mind are making room for something. Everybody is terrified of feeling empty, of feeling darkness, of feeling extreme pain. If you let yourself feel it and you don't judge it, and let yourself go through it, and let yourself experience it, when it's over and you come out the other side, you are literally reborn. And but if you're in a situation where you become deeply suicidal, or you know you have an addictive personality, and we know how addictive personalities work, there is no cure for addiction. The most that you can hope to do is to substitute an unhealthy addiction for a healthy addiction. So the alcoholic no longer drinks, but maybe they jog instead, or maybe they find a church that gives them some sort of comfort. But addiction is something that can be redirected, but it can't be eliminated.
Yeah.
So if you're an addictive personality, if you're suicidal, so going through this dark tunnel is threatening to your life or your health, then that's where a therapist or a good psychologist can come in handy, or a support group, because they'll keep you from falling off the edge. They'll keep you from falling into the abyss. But people are so afraid of that dark night. They're so afraid of feeling hopeless. And so they're looking for hope outside of themselves. They're looking for hope so they volunteer at a soup kitchen thinking that'll give them hope. That's great, but you shouldn't do that to give you hope. You should do it out of generosity of spirit and the joy of giving, but not to get hope back. Hope is not something outside yourself that you can manufacture or make happen by something you do. When people say, oh, it gave me hope again, hope is something that lives inside you. Sometimes it will hibernate. Sometimes it will be dormant. In those moments when it's hibernating because your soul needs you to grow. Your soul needs to take a giant step of maturity. It needs to go to the next level. Every day that you're alive, your soul is evolving. And sometimes it needs to evolve in a vacuum. The deepest personal growth comes out of the deepest soil. And what color is the deepest soil?
Black, dark.
Yes.
Good point. Jody, I'm impressed. Like you're changing the way I'm thinking on this stuff personally. So, you've answered question 3, which is taking us back to those times when you've quote unquote lost hope or needed hope to pull through some difficult times. I still want to know question number 2 though. Who has shared? Do you have a Mr. Shadow? Honestly, you mentioned him right off. He's a reminder of hope or a giver of that to you for sure.
Well, I mean, I'm an extreme animal lover.
Yeah.
I mean, I probably belong in some sort of facility for the mentally infirm because I'm an extreme animal lover. I mean, to give you an example, I had mice twice, and I called Chicago Green Rescue of Illinois, an animal rescue service, and they came and rescued my mice.
Oh, wow.
And brought them to a sanctuary.
No way.
Oh, yeah.
That's
cool.
cool.
And if I get bugs, I had bugs in my new. I'm renting a new house, and I need a break from ownership. I just flipped someplace, and I was getting hundreds of common houseflies in my home office, and then they would come in and then they would die, and it was just making me sick. So I'm compassionate for all creatures. I don't judge. Oh, this is a fly and it's meaningless. I don't make those judgments. If it breathes, if it's a living being, it has my love and respect. I don't judge. And I didn't call an exterminator because I just couldn't. So I called the animal rescue guy. And I said, I know this is crazy, but you got to help me. And they came out and they actually helped me. They
Wow.
found where they were coming in. They humanely removed them using some sweet sticky stuff that made them fly out and eat the sweet sticky stuff, and then they flew off. I think it was honey. And then they plugged up the holes for me so they wouldn't come back in. Now, I know that sounds crazy, but, you know, that kind of stuff gives me hope because I don't want to kill anything. I can't. I'm just too sensitive. I won't kill anything. If I can save it, I'm not. If I have termites, obviously, then I have to make an adult decision.
Sure.
But I can't kill anything, and I won't. So that's one thing. So, yeah, in that respect, Mr. Shadow and all innocent critters give me hope. But if you had to think of one person, I mean, my mom for sure, my parents, but the one who gives me the most hope, and this is going to sound sappy and cheesy, but the reasons are deeper than one might think if you're really metaphysical. I don't know how old you are, if you can remember. There's a very famous legend in Hollywood. She died in 1969, named Judy Garland.
Absolutely.
She was Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz.
Yeah.
And she's been my source of hope my whole life. And in fact, when I was 5 years old, I decided that after she died that she was my guardian angel.
Really?
My guide.
What?
And I still believe that to this day. So, and the reason she gave me so much hope is that here was a girl whose childhood was stolen from her, whose father was a difficult circumstance, who And he's the only person in show business, because I worked the entertainment business for 20 years. And she's the only person in show business, the only performance artist, probably in the history of performance art, whose vulnerability gave others strength. Jodee Garland would stand on the stage and sing with that tear in her voice. She would sing and weep at the same time. No other singer could do that. Mm-hmm. And her open vulnerability on stage gave millions their strength. And so for me, every time my hope was hibernating, I would listen to her records, or I would watch one of her movies, or I would watch one of her concerts on tape, or I would read one of the poems she wrote as a teenager. And I felt that there was somebody walking with me. And interestingly enough, when I got into the entertainment business out of college, I got in the entertainment business during college, actually, and became a publicist, as I was an entertainment publicist for 20 years before I gave all that up and started writing books about bullying and started, traveling for that issue. I worked with a lot of celebrities and very famous, iconic people. And, Mickey Rooney, God rest his soul, walked into my life out of the blue. And I mean, that was her partner in film. I mean, Judy Garland and Mickey Rooney, like Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers. Yeah. And I met Liza Minnelli, literally out of the blue. And when I was a little girl, I remember saying, I was about 6, I remember saying, I want to meet Mickey Rooney and Liza Minnelli and Laura Luft. I want to know the people that Judy Garland loved. Oh, wow. And they literally walked into my life later in life, during the course of my career. And every time I see a rainbow, it's always when I need to see it. If I'm sad or I'm terrified that something may not go the way I need it to, or I feel like somebody I love is going to leave me, something will happen and there'll be a rainbow, because physically in the sky, or I'll turn on the TV and all of a sudden there'll be an old Judy Garland movie playing, or there'll be a rainbow in a commercial. And so I always say that's Judy Garland saying hello. But what that really is on a deeper level is hope saying hello, waking up.
Wow. Wow. I love that. That's precious. That's precious. Jodee Garland does have that amazing way to do that. And I play, this is really cheesy too, I play a ukulele because I love music, but that's about as far as my talent goes. And I can whistle but not sing. And Somewhere Over the Rainbow is one of my favorite pieces to play. It's just beautiful, and every time I play it, I can hear that little Judy Garland voice singing it,
Yeah, that's her saying hello.
Yeah.
And so, it's the other thing is that, the other thing I'll tell anyone, because I'm sure the people who are listening to this are probably seeking hope, is I think there's a lot of people out there who are very metaphysical. And by metaphysical, let me be specific. They want to believe in past lives. They want to believe in sort of a collective consciousness. They want to believe in psychic ability. They want to believe in the magic of the undefinable, but they judge it, or they're afraid others will judge them for it. And I can tell you that as far as metaphysics go, there's nothing wrong with stretching your belief system to include something that may not necessarily directly follow the paradigm of your religion, or the paradigm of your parents' values, or the paradigm of your boss's opinion. Sometimes, in order to wake up hope, we need to push past the limiting paradigms of others. So if you think that for example, let's say that something resonates with you, a particular place or a particular food or a particular culture, and you have no explanation for it, and so you say sort of jokingly, oh, I must have had a past life there. And there's a part of you that would really like to believe that, but you think, oh, that's ridiculous, that's silly. Reach out and explore that idea or that thought or that dream that you think might be ridiculous or silly. Sometimes that one thing that we avoid finding out more about because we think it's silly is the one thing that brings us unexpected joy. And unexpected joy fertilizes hope. You have to think about the things that fertilize hope. And again, they're internal. That's why so many relationships fail, because you're in a place of despair. You meet someone, there's great chemistry. Oh, he gave me my hope back. No one can give you hope. It lives within you like a light or like a sentient being. You can't lose it. You can't kill it. It's there. But sometimes it hibernates.
Wow.
And you can't really give it either. Huh. You can't give someone hope. You can inspire them to find that hope within and wake it up. But you can't give someone something that's already there, but you can help them awaken it.
That's powerful, and it makes a lot of sense. So, question 4, how are you sharing hope today? Obviously, you're speaking to hundreds of thousands of people about bullying. You're writing best-selling books. If anybody has children that's listening, if they're getting bullying or anti-bullying curriculum or teaching in school, it's been influenced by Jody. There's no way around it. So that's your professional world. How do you, as a regular everyday person, coming and going from the coffee shop or to your mailbox, how do you share or inspire hope with those around you?
Well, I'm eccentric, and I think that's a big part of it in a good way, I think. I mean, I'll give you a great example. I was getting my nails done yesterday. I was getting manicure. And I go to the same salon all the time, and it's owned by this lovely Vietnamese-American family. And I'm there all the time, and they have a little girl, Annabelle. And the salon is actually named after her, and she's 3 years old, and oh my gosh, she's precious. So she's there, and this huge cricket hops across the floor. So the grandfather's instinct is, of course, to kill it. And I jump up out of my seat, and I was almost in tears, and I said, don't kill it. That's a sweet little innocent creature, and it sings. It makes music. And he only speaks Vietnamese. So I told his daughter, translate, don't you dare kill that cricket. And the daughter translated, and so they saved the cricket, and Annabelle carried it outside and put it in the grass. Now, Annabelle will remember that her whole life. That will help her have compassion for the helpless. Help her have respect for life. And I guarantee you those people in that shop will never even kill a fly again.
So you living your life your way as an example, just being yourself, honestly, as an example to others, and you taught 3 or 4 other people, and who knows who else in the shop, what you were believing and thinking, and you're right, it does make an impact. It really does.
And the other thing I do, and I tell people to do this all the time, I tell my boyfriend this all the time, and he'll call me just to hear it. Lead with compassion. Everyone assumes that human intelligence is measured by intellectual ability. That's crap. True human intelligence isn't a derivative of intellect. It's a derivative of compassion. You cannot be truly intelligent unless you have compassion. Genius and intelligence are 2 different things.
You're right. Well said. All right, so question 5. This is great, Jody. You got really practical things we can use every day. So question 5 is distilling these things. So what are the A, B's, and C's, or 1, 2, 3? So I'm walking away from this conversation literally with you today, going back into my work day to do what I do in my day job, and I need to do something next to begin moving forward and growing this thing, and practicing these things in my own heart, what do I do next?
Number one, right now, number one, if you're doing something in your day and it's the end of your day and you're tired and you don't want to do one more thing, push yourself to do one more thing, but that specifically relates to a long shot dream you have. There are two kinds of ambitions or dreams that a person has: the short shots and the long shots. The short shots are like the low-hanging fruit. They're the things with a little effort you can get. Like, okay, I'm going to plan a vacation. I've budgeted for it. I can afford it, so I'm going to plan a vacation. I'm going to, jump online and book my flights. That's a short shot. The long shot is something that's always been a dream, but you never thought maybe you could do it. Like, I want to write a novel. That's my dream. My dream has always been to write a novel, but I don't have time. I can't do it. So it's the end of your day and you're exhausted and you don't want to do one more thing. Jump on the laptop and see if you can find a creative writing class somewhere in your community. Mm-hmm. You don't have to sign up for it. You don't have to do anything. Just see if it exists. Mm-hmm. At the point of the day when you're most tired and don't want to do anything else, do one thing that's for your long shot dream. One thing. And I promise you will find out that a lot of those short shots, those things that you thought were easy to get, will be harder than you thought. And that dream that you thought you could never do, that long shot that you fantasize about, but come on, it's just a pipe dream, it's just fantasy, that thing may happen more readily than you imagine. So in the moment when you are your most tired, do something, even if it's just a 5-minute phone call. Do something that contributes to that long shot dream that you have. And if you do that every day, you'd be shocked what can happen next.
That's really good.
And number two, on the days when you feel dark, your darkest, and your mind feels like heavy, wet cotton, and it's as if when you breathe, it physically hurts. And you have to remind yourself that you have to do it to survive. On days like that, let yourself feel the pain. Let yourself cry. Go through it. The only way to get through something is to go through something. And go with your body rhythm. On a day when you feel like that, in that dark place, let yourself grieve. Because you're grieving something. You may not know what it is, but you're probably grieving something that you're letting go of. You may be grieving a part of your own spirit that you're letting go of. You're growing. You're going through the birth canal. That's really what's happening. And you will go through that birth canal many times in the course of a lifetime. So let yourself feel what you're feeling, but keep moving. That's the secret. Mm-hmm. Keep moving. Don't stop your life and just sit on the couch and stare into space. Feel the feelings, cry, wail, punch a wall, but keep moving. And if you feel that you can't keep moving, that's when you reach out for help. A support group, a therapist, a psychologist, because you want to maintain your momentum so that as you're going through this dark time, you're moving forward through it instead of staying in it. Move forward through the dark tunnel. Don't stay in it. Move forward through it.
Awesome. That's great. You can stop it too if you don't. You got another one. I'm all ears. Yeah.
No. Yeah, and lastly, we have another minute. And lastly, here's a breathing exercise that's great.
Cool.
Close your eyes and breathe in. Breathe into trust. So when you take a breath in, you're breathing in trust. And exhale fear. So breathe in trust. breathe out fear.
I'm doing it right now.
And close your eyes and imagine you're breathing in trust and you're breathing out fear. Mm-hmm. Because hope, distilled to its primitive essence, is trust in your own soul, trust in the universe. It's trust.
That is.
So if you breathe in trust and you breathe out fear, it makes room for hope to wake up again.
Wow. So usable and practical. Amazing. Okay. Wow. Let me just pause the recording here for just a second. Jody, that's just amazing. Thank you. Brilliant stuff. Brilliant. And I'm doing these things as you're saying it. I'm breathing in, breathing out. All right, let me get a couple of clips here. So when we start the episode, we put one of your quotes, something you said in here at the very beginning, and then we have your voice come on. So it'll be your quote, your voice saying something right when they push play on their iPod or whatever they listen to on. And then it says, if it was me, I would say, I'm Chris Williams and I share hope, or I'm Chris Williams, host of a podcast or entrepreneur or whatever, and I share hope. You would say, I'm Jodee Blanco and I share hope. So I just need a few quotes from you like that. Just your name and I share hope, or your name and best-selling author of the book and I share hope. However you want to do it yourself.
Okay.
You can do 2 or 3.
Okay.
I'm going to mute my microphone and just.
So they're not quotes that you want. They're taglines.
They're taglines. Yeah,
right?
I've already got. I mean, obviously, you've said. I keep just jotting down notes like crazy because you're saying so many really powerful things already. We'll find one of those. We'll cut it out and stick it at the very beginning of the interview, just as an attention getter. And then I just need your tagline of I'm Jodee Blanco and I share hope.
Okay, sure. Tell me when you're ready.
Go ahead. I'll mute my microphone.
Hi, I'm Jodee Blanco, author of Please Stop Laughing at Me, and an anti-bullying activist, survivor and activist, and I share hope.
Excellent. Excellent. Do one that's just I'm Jodee Blanco and I share hope.
I'm Jodee Blanco and I share hope.
Beautiful. And do you have any other ones you want to try? Those are both great. We can use them.
Yeah. I'm Jodee Blanco and I live hope.
Wow. That's good. That's a great way to say that. You're making me think. All right. We have like 2 more minutes.
And I think, you have share hope. I think that would be livehope.com.
Yeah.
Because sharing hope suggests that you have to share something that you have. Living hope is a state of being.
You're right. I'm going to look into that. That's really true. I'm learning so much. Thank you. All right. We've got like 2 or 3 minutes left, so can I just ask you some rapid-fire questions that I'm just curious about? I jotted down here.
Sure, go ahead.
Okay.
No problem.
So, what, Mr. Shadow, and you are out having a good time. What makes Mr. Shadow happy? Like, if you want to give him a great day, is it a certain treat, or is it a walk in the park, or helping him up on the couch?
Food and a really good ass scratching.
All right. The next question I thought of is your favorite Judy Garland movie or song. Obviously, we all remember her in The Wizard of Oz, but favorite movie or song?
Favorite movie, of course, The Wizard of Oz. Favorite song, Over the Rainbow. Besides those 2, those are the obvious ones. Favorite movie, A Star is Born. Favorite song, The Man That Got Away.
A Star is Born and The Man That Got Away.
The Man That Got Away, yeah.
I'll look them up. That's great. All right, and then last question. So you're post-bullying now. You're an adult. You've grown up. Do you feel nervous when you walk into a middle school and you stand up on stage because you know that some of those kids are going to judge you right then and there? Do you feel nervous at that?
No, I never feel nervous on a stage because I grew up on a stage. I was performing and acting from 9 years old. I never feel nervous on stage because on stage I'm in control. It's off stage in real life that can make me nervous sometimes. But on stage, no. Because I know I'm there for a purpose. And I've long accepted that some people are going to like me and some people are going to reject me. I don't fear rejection the way probably someone who hasn't gone through what I did does, because I've already been through the worst possible rejection a human being can endure. So now rejection doesn't frighten me, and so I'm free.
That's great. Freedom. Freedom. What a great thing. Well, Jodee Blanco, it's been a privilege. You are, if I get this right, New York Times bestseller for the book Please Stop.
New York Times, no. A New York Times bestseller is a book. A New York Times best-selling is the author. So I'm a New York Times best-selling author, or you could say that I've written New York Times best-selling books.
That makes sense.
Or New York Times bestsellers. Yeah.
Okay, so you're a New York Times best-selling author. How fun is that?
Yeah.
Is it awesome when you all of a sudden look at the list and there you are? Does somebody call you? How do you find out?
It was really weird because when I first wrote Please Stop Laughing at Me, my memoir, it was years ago. It was 1999, 2000, 2001 when I was writing it, and it came out in 2003. But at the time, school bullying didn't exist. I was one of the mothers of the movement. I mean, I was one of the founding members of that movement. It didn't exist when I was pitching my book. And I remember when I went to publishers, they said, Jody, we like you, you're a great publicist, but bullying is a non-issue. There's no audience for this book.
Wow.
So I bullied a little publisher into taking it on. and within 48 hours of its release, it was a runaway New York Times bestseller.
Whoa.
And I remember being shocked because the reason it was a bestseller, it's the only time in the history of publishing, and this is true, you can ask anyone in publishing, it's the only time in the history of book publishing that a canceled network appearance put a book under the New York Times list. I was scheduled to go on Good Morning America to promote my book, which is a really big get, right? But there was a caveat. Good Morning America had insisted that I get a former bully from school because, P.S., as a side note, all the kids at school who tormented me, I forgave them. And not only did I forgive them, but they're a part of my life now. And the one who abused me the most is probably one of my dearest friends.
Oh, sweet.
Forgiveness is important to hope, too, because when you forgive, you're not doing it for the person you forgive. You're doing it for yourself to reawaken hope. Anyways, so we were scheduled to go on Good Morning America, and GMA wanted my former bully to apologize to me on air on national television, and she was willing to do it. So we were ready to go. We were on our way, and I get a phone call that my appearance was canceled because Bush was going to announce war in Iraq that day.
Whoa.
And all of my media appearances were canceled. I didn't have one interview. And anyone in the book business knows that if you don't have any media, your book's not going to sell, and it's going to get returned to the publisher. And once a book gets returned, you never write another book again.
Whoa.
You're done. And I remember I was devastated. And I went home and crawled into bed and didn't get out for 3 days. And then on Tuesday morning, my publisher called and said, congratulations, I heard you were great on Good Morning America. I said, where did you hear that? He said, well, all the buyers for the bookstores called me and said they missed you because they were driving to work when you were on, but you must have been fabulous because the book is sold out. We already have to go into another print run. And he said, and by the way, you made the New York Times bestseller list today.
Whoa.
And I said, but Gary, I never was on Good Morning America. They canceled, and I was going to call you and tell you today. I just didn't have the courage to tell you over the weekend. I felt so bad. What had happened is, because all the stores had been alerted that I was going to be on Good Morning America, they displayed my book in the front windows.
Oh, wow.
And even though I never was on, kids saw the title, Please Stop Laughing at Me, and the cover image of this lonely kid sitting by herself. It's kind of an androgynous kid.
Yeah.
Parents saw it and they saw their own children in it. Teachers saw it and they recognized students in the cover and the title. And it just did it all by itself on word of mouth.
Awesome.
No fancy media, no publicity, nothing. Just a spirit of honesty and openness in a book, reaching out to kids who needed it. So that's when I knew I was on something.
Yeah.
Because for a book to make the New York Times bestseller list with not one media interview, not even a local radio show, that says something there.
That
so
does.
yeah, that reawakened my hope. It
Yeah.
didn't give me hope, because hope is in there, but it sure did wake it up.
Amazing. That's the real deal. Well, Jody, thank you again. I am encouraged and motivated, and I've got some thinking to do and some things I want to shift around in my head and in my life. So, thank you for spending the time with me.
Thank you, and Chris, please feel free to call me anytime.
Okay.
I mean, you do work with the CEO stuff and the distressed companies. I do a lot of that consulting. I go and I do a lot of, I do consulting too, and I work in the publishing industry. If you just want a sounding board or an ear or, consider me a friend. I'm here. Call anytime.
I appreciate that. I really do. I will. I'll probably follow up with you on that. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure.
And Mr. Shadow says thank you very much too. And Mr. Shadow says to tell everyone listening, adopt, save a life, don't support puppy mill.
We are, believe it or not, we're adopting another puppy or dog or something from the animal shelter in the next week or two. We've been talking about it and planning it out, and it is time. We're ready to go.
Okay, you want to give your kids an amazing lesson of unconditional love that they will never forget.
Yeah.
All right, when you go to the animal shelter with your kids and you tell the manager you want to adopt an animal, the manager's going to say, well, why don't you walk up and down the rows of cages and take a pet? Look him in the eye or her and say, no, we don't want to pick a pet. The same way kids at school pick who's cool enough to sit with them on the bus or who's cool enough to come to their sleepover. We want to save a life that no one else wants. We want whatever animal you've had the longest that's scheduled to be put down. That's the one we want. We want to give love and acceptance to someone who's been denied it.
Awesome idea.
That's unconditional love.
Awesome idea. Okay. Well, I've got more to do.
Well, that's from Mr. Shadow. I can't help that he's very articulate. That's from Mr. Shadow.
I am so glad that you and Mr. Shadow could spend an hour with me. Thank you very much. And please,
thank you so much, my dear. Consider us new friends.
All right.
Okay?
Well, give Mr. Shadow a hug for me, too.
I will. I'm scratching his butt as we speak. All right, my dear.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
You've just listened to I Share Hope. If you're ready to make a change, head to our website at isharehope.com and claim your free copy of the top 10 actions of hope from world leaders to use hope in your own life. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you next time.